Hello, everybody. My name is Manan. Welcome to my channel. I'm in a very different place. I am actually in Keila, but outside of Tallinn. I'm actually in Keila Youth Center, and I am here with somebody who works in the youth center who reached out to me when I mentioned that I want to talk to Estonians. And his name is Maarek. He's 26 years old. He has been born and raised in Estonia. He went abroad and lived in Australia, and he's currently working with the Estonian youth. And I have so many questions. I think what we are going to talk about is his experiences abroad, and particularly having a wife which is a foreigner, which I think is a very unique thing, mostly in Estonia, because mostly it is, yeah, foreign guys with Estonian women that I've seen. So anyway, that's very unique. So yeah, you can come in the frame.
Hi. Hello. And I started, I got nervous all
Yeah,
of a
no, no,
sudden.
right. Just say
You
hello
know,
to
Hi,
the camera.
my name is Maarek, and I'm joining you today.
Yeah, yeah. So I think let's first begin by you introducing yourself a little bit more thoroughly. I think I covered the basic things, but what is it that you do right now? How old are you? Where were you born? And then we'll go deeper into your story.
Okay. So I am 26 years old, and as a profession, I am a youth worker.
Mm-hmm.
So I mainly every day I deal with open youth work and non-formal education with the Youth of Estonia, and as of right now, also Ukrainian and Russian youth as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is a thing that just kind of popped into my way almost randomly, and I am very happy that I did get here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is also the reason why we have a chance of making this episode where we are right now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because we are here in the youth center in the radio room, and that you're able to secure that because you of course work here. So that's really great, and it's like my first in-person podcast with somebody. So great start. But okay, so let's go to the beginning. So tell me about your life from the very beginning. Where were you born, raised, everything about that?
Okay. Well, I was actually born in this very town,
In Keila.
in Keila.
Okay,
There
cool.
used to be a hospital here, which isn't functioning as a hospital anymore. I was born here, and I grew up here for most of my life.
Hmm.
We didn't move out of that town at the time. Now it's like legally known as a city, but back then it was
Yeah,
definitely a
yeah,
town.
yeah. Hmm.
We did move with my parents to the very edge of the town, though,
Hmm.
to a more secluded and like foresty area. So I have been here literally
Your whole life.
my
Like
whole life.
this is your birth town and your upbringing town. So
Yes,
you know everybody. Everybody knows you in that.
I went to elementary school
Uh-huh.
here. I went to like up to high school. I went here.
Oh well, that's pretty cool. Um, so what was your childhood, growing up, school, all the way up to high school like? As because I think Estonia was independent at that time. What was your education like?
My education, now that I'm like looking back on it, I think it was actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, for example, in the US, it's still a very widely discussed topic, for example, that they don't talk about sexual education all that well.
Yeah.
And thinking back, we covered a lot of topics that they would never mention in the US
Yeah. Yeah.
sex ed classes. But that was also partially because our teacher in that field was very open, and they weren't trying to hide anything. They wanted to make sure that we're safe and have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main thing. And regarding the rest of the subjects, they were good. I can't say anything bad. I still think that the school system, in a sense, is a bit outdated, but that's not just here, that's everywhere. The fact that you just go sit down and then you have to try to memorize everything within
Yeah.
45 minutes, that is a bit outdated. But other than that, it was really good. I had the same classmates throughout most of the school time. We got along really well. And we actually, like, by the end of the school, we were getting along well enough that I felt like we belong in that class together. It wasn't someone It wasn't just a bunch of random people pushed in together and trying to survive, but I would say at the time, we were friends.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't speak everyone to everyone all the time, but we were at least friendly towards each other,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very unique, not unique, but it's a rare thing in school systems.
I think what's like there is a lot of talk about bullying in not just in Estonia but overall in everywhere in the world as well. So was that something that you saw or you witnessed in when you were growing up in this Estonian school system?
Oh, definitely,
Oh, really?
100%. From both sides. I mean, like at some point I was being bullied. At some point I was being a bully because if you're being bullied long enough, then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want to get some power. But funny enough, my bully is actually my lifelong best friend.
Mm-hmm.
So we still get along to this day,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and our names are almost identical,
Oh
which is
wow.
even weirder. But yeah, so it was a weird place to be in, but um, we have talked about it like in depth with him. I don't feel any grudge against it at all. I understand it 100%. I don't think it was right.
Mm-hmm.
Neither was it right that I was bullying other people at some age, but to be fair, it is a part of growing up and wanting to prove yourself to others.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is in that sense normal. It shouldn't be normalized,
Yeah.
which is different, but it does happen to pretty much everyone, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How was your family life? Like, how many siblings do you have? What did your parents do? You were, of course, living in Keila. Um, how was your life apart from school like?
Well, it was interesting again because my father was actually a coach in my own trainings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had a very good family life. I
Mm-hmm.
can't lie.
Mm-hmm.
My family was very loving. They were very caring. I never had a problem with being neglected or anything like that. But they were the typical Estonian people,
Mm-hmm.
so kind of didn't say what was on their mind all the time,
Mm-hmm.
kept it to themselves. Um, but mostly it was really, really good. I've always treasured the fact that I grew up in a very healthy family, and I've never hid that. Even as a kid, I always said that I am lucky to have a good family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I have three brothers right now. One of them is older than me, so 5 years older,
Mm-hmm.
and the other two are younger. They are both right now in what's it called? Not the not high school. The one before that
Primary
is
school,
primary school. Yeah.
primary school, secondary school, then yeah, then high school,
Oh no, then it's secondary.
secondary school. Yeah, yeah.
Secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, and so you grew up in a household with all guys,
Men.
men. So
Yeah.
do you see any difference? Because I think that really, like, if you're somebody who just grown up in all male household, then it sort of makes you different. But have you ever felt that you were sort of like you had some kind of different uh, like habits or something because you were growing up in an all male household?
Yeah, definitely. Talking to women in the early ages was definitely a bit more difficult,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think, in a sense, my father did amazing work on that because he always made it the point that my mother had to be comfortable in the house,
Mm-hmm.
so it wouldn't be ruled by men. It
Mm-hmm.
was just the way. If she wanted something a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
it was a certain way.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, like, he made a very big deal out of it. He was very respectful towards that
Mm-hmm.
because I think he understood that it would be a lot more difficult for her
Yeah, yeah,
than it is for us to adjust.
yeah.
And there are two types of being, like, conservatism, and they were both to an extent, but I think there's also a very good side to being conservative in
Mm-hmm.
some senses,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's actually what made me grow up into the person I am today, which I would say is a lot more respectful towards a lot of different people and genders as well, because that's the way that my father brought us up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he made it a point.
That's a really healthy thing because I right now, from everything that I know about Estonia and when I talk to Estonian youngsters, I mean the family life is just shot through the roof. Like it's so fragmented and so uh, difficult that I can't imagine how children are uh, growing up or having this thing. And I think you bringing out this factor specifically of having a family life which was so respectful and so like cohesive, that's a very good thing. And I think part of it, you being here and you doing this kind of work and being such a like a gentleman is, I think it's also like a testament to how family shape us in a way as well. So I think I'd like to move ahead and talk about um, high school, growing up, and then all the way to your first experience abroad. I think you said you went to Australia, so let's talk about that.
Yeah. So ever since the fourth grade, not the fourth grade, ever since I was 4,
Mm-hmm.
I started doing judo. But during those years in like in secondary school and high school, it got a lot more serious.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing it because I had asthma. I was born 2 months ahead of time, which
Oh, okay,
was
okay.
unheard of at that time
Mm-hmm.
that people actually survive it.
Okay.
But I kind of overcome it because I went they put me in a choir, they sent me to judo training, so that's literally the reason why this like city has a judo class right now, because my dad wanted to make sure that I am healthy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was a very, very big part of my life in that age. We were out in competitions a lot. We were practicing all the time. We had training sessions like there were 3 times a week, which wasn't that much if we're talking about like professional
Mm-hmm.
athletes, but it is still enough if you've been doing it, let's say, for 15
For
years.
any young person, yeah, of course,
Yeah,
that's a big thing.
yeah,
Hmm.
and yeah, of course, I had a lot of at that time. I had a lot of self-esteem issues, which thinking back, I could see that how my family was trying to fix that situation, like help me with it.
But why do you think now, looking back, were these self-esteem issues? Because you had a really good family life. You had a very supportive father, mother. But looking back, when you mentioned that, could you find a reason for that, or how was that?
I've actually been very is it retrospective, that word, or introspective?
Yeah, introspective is when you, yeah.
Introspective in that sense for a while. And I think I have come to a few conclusions. So one of them is definitely 100% the same thing we talked about, bullying, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
Another thing is self-image. Every teenager growing up
Yes.
has a rough self-image. It's either they have way too good of a self-image, or it's shot down all the way
Yeah,
as
yeah.
low as it can go. And for me, it was the lower part because, as you see, I am quite tall,
Hmm.
but with if you grow really tall really fast, usually you don't get wide as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was really, really tall and lanky,
Hmm.
and I couldn't build up any sort of weight or muscle. However, I tried. We tried different um, we tried different how do you say it, diets. We tried counting my calories. We tried absolutely everything. Nothing helped, and that is a thing that will kind of make you feel bad about yourself. Secondly, a thing that I discovered this year, last year summer, my bad, was that I actually have inattentive ADHD, and I mean like the hardcore version of it.
Okay.
So my memory was not there. I couldn't keep a conversation. I was all over the place, and to most people, I am random because my mind comes to conclusions really fast.
Hmm.
Even though I'm not hyperactive, my mind is working really, really fast. And if you're in a high school setting and you're trying to fit in with people
Yeah,
and you keep throwing in random topics, then people are just gonna think that you're weird.
yeah.
It's a whole like self-fulfilling prophecy that then you start to feel like you don't fit in,
Hmm.
and the more you feel it, the more self-conscious you are about it. So
The more you,
yeah, and by the end of it, you push yourself a bit away from others because you're just like, okay, well, I don't really fit anywhere perfectly anyway. And it had a good and a good and a bad side, because I got along with people from like all over the board to an extent. I didn't get along with everyone perfectly,
hmm
but I would get along with the kids who were more reserved and quiet, and I
hmm
would get along with the popular kids as well. So it was a blessing and a curse at the same time.
hmm
But yeah, those things. And I don't really blame anyone that we didn't diagnose the ADHD sooner, because I don't know how we could have.
hmm hmm
who is gonna think that there's something wrong with a person if they're just quiet and in their own bubble?
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying really hard to like get past my grades and everything, but at the end of the day, it just, I don't know. I don't see how anyone would have picked up on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But now looking back, how do you manage ADHD right now? Now that you know that this is something that you have.
Well, at my last workplace, and we're not gonna go into depth with that, but it ended up being really, really bad for my mental health
Mm-hmm.
in multiple different ways. And at one point, I was in my office, the lights were closed, the curtains were down, the house was empty, and I was curled up on the floor. And I had this, like, I was trying not to cry, and I had a feeling that too much information is coming in at the same time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even though I was getting no information from anywhere at the second.
Mm-hmm.
So that really made me think that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
My not high school, my uni teacher, one of them, pulled me aside after seeing me for an hour over the course of like half a year.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Listen, you're pulling yourself apart, and
Mm-hmm.
it's visible that you need to do something. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what is going on, but you need to figure it out." And
Mm-hmm.
and she meant it in a respectful way,
Yeah.
but that also got me thinking. So all of this together, and one day I'm chilling with my partner at the time, and then I'm just on TikTok, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
scrolling, and I see a video, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so relatable!" And I look at the tags, and it says ADHD, and I'm just, okay, let's look into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I look, the more I'm trying to press it down by myself. Like, oh no, I'm just like, I'm making connections where they aren't. I'm just self-diagnosing right now. And I kept going and going and going down that rabbit hole. And then I told my partner, and then something clicked in her head too, and it was visible. And by the end of it, I was already trying to get an assessment. After the first talk with the therapist, they said, no, there's no doubt, 100% with the Q. I think it's the QI test.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I don't know.
okay, well, we did tests and stuff, and we talked for a while, and everything matched.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first time in my life when I could actually keep a journal. I started writing down all the things that people were saying that a person with ADHD experiences, and I wrote them down in really vivid detail. And I started keeping a diary of what had I forgotten, what day, what had happened, and looking back, reading it, it amazed me that I forgot how much I keep forgetting things during a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the thing with coping with ADHD, the biggest part of it is just literally acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an excuse, it's an explanation. It's
Mm-hmm.
still my responsibility to see that everything gets done in time.
Yep.
My employer doesn't have to give me any extra
Yep.
conditions. I have to manage it, but at the same time, being a bit more forgiving towards yourself
Yep.
is kind of gonna help you get out of that loophole. Because if you can't forgive yourself, if you keep beating yourself
Yep.
down, then like mental health is gonna keep going down, deteriorating, and by the end of it, it's gonna just be worse.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Would you like water?
Yeah, sure. Let's
I just realized I didn't actually pour it.
yeah, that's no problem.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, personally speaking, I also tend to make a lot of connections. My mind is just like over really active, but I never really looked into this, and it's kind of weird because I was yesterday talking to another person who was also uh, found out about that they had ADHD at 45 years old. At 45, they got diagnosed with ADHD. And previously, what they mentioned was their whole life they thought that that they were stupid, like that this is something that's just really wrong with them. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
that will be rough. And there's two ways you can take it. And I have seen both ways since I do like how deal with youth throughout the day. Then I've seen youth get their diagnoses, I've seen adults get their diagnoses. And the two ways that usually happen, one or the other, is one side is feeling relief
Mhm.
because now you think that you don't feel like you're broken. You find an explanation. And the other part, and I don't understand that part way too well because I was on the side of relief myself. The other side is just feeling distraught, feeling sad because now you officially have a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So you can look at it as an, okay, I am not fundamentally broken and this is something we can deal with. Or you can look at it like, okay, I got my diagnosis, which confirms that I am fundamentally broken and I can't keep up with everyone.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of weird that you're looking at it at the same thing from two different angles. It's just a mindset shift.
Yeah.
That what this is, and actually, so much of life is just that, just this mindset shift, to look at things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep the journey going. So growing up, and let's keep on going all the way to your first trip abroad, and yeah.
Okay. So after the military and singing the Estonian hymn each day.
Let's talk about the military first as
Okay.
well. So how did it was?
It was actually really interesting. I wanted to go. I wanted to go because it was a thing in our family. My father always made it a point, saying that if you are able, there's nothing. You're not like you're. If there's nothing wrong with you, let's say you have a bad leg or something, and you should go.
But yeah, let's just explain a little bit to the readers that to the listeners that Estonia has mandatory conscription as well. So you are every youth or every male is obligated to go to the military. But what you're saying is something more than just being
No.
Or was it the regular
It was the same thing.
Okay.
It was the same thing, but since I wanted to go, then I could pick where I want to go. So I went in that sense voluntarily.
Okay.
And it gives you some advantages. And I actually went. So you have an option. You can go for either 8 months, and you'll come out of it a private, as in the first rank, the lowest rank, or you can go in for a longer period of time, and you can actually get the rank. And since I really wanted to learn military police, because I heard there's riot control, hand-to-hand combat, and everything, but that is only for 11 months. I went for the 11-month one. Yeah, but since the whole thing is that like everybody keeps trying to weasel out of it, but I didn't really go into it with the only mindset being that, oh, if my country is ever in a war, then I'll be there. No, it was I knew it was going to be an adventure in and of itself, and it was. There were really good sides to it. There were really funny sides to it. There were also some bad sides to it. But overall, I'm really, really happy that I went. I have never seen a bigger clown show than the whole military thing, because you can imagine if everyone is forced to go, what kind of people you're gonna end up having there. And at the same time, I learned a lot of valuable lessons. I also found out in retrospect that my mind works a lot better under pressure, because that was the only year of my life when I could actually memorize dates, numbers, everything, coordinates. I couldn't remember my own phone number for years, and I got my rifle serial number. I read it like twice, and it's still to this day stuck to my head.
Wow. Yeah.
And things like that. My memory is usually horrible, absolutely horrendous. I can't remember anything, but that really cleared some things up for me. And now I know as well, like if I'm working here and I need to remember something, then it's better if I put myself under a bit of pressure, not too much, not to break myself, but a bit of pressure, then I perform better.
That's such a huge insight, because I think like I'm 36, and I think understanding yourself is just understanding these hacks and looking at yourself as, like a separate person that has these tips or tricks of working with each other. So, like a lot of people say that, like if you're growing up in today's culture, then a lot of people say that, you willpower your way to everything. Like you wake up in the morning, you willpower your way to everything. But I think if you really understand yourself, then you know the small things and tips and tricks and all these things, how, sort of you click and you make yourself work. Like the same thing, like for example, like for me, if there is somebody talking on the TV and I'm working, it's somehow easier. I get things done faster. I don't know. But to me, to sort of force myself to be in a quiet environment and then work on these things, and then sort of willpower my way to, no, I want no other distraction. But as long as the output is okay, the end result is matter. You have to use yourself in any way
Yeah.
that you can. So yeah, that's something that I learned after a very long time, and a lot of trials and errors myself. So army, and like talking about like bullying and this culture of camaraderie in army, what was that like? What was your relationships with your, let's say, colleagues, your fellow soldiers?
Yeah, so that's a bit of a whole like bucket to get into,
Mm-hmm.
because you can imagine if all of a sudden you have a whole house full of
Yeah.
men who most of them didn't want to be there,
Yeah.
and now they're all gonna try and prove each other
Yeah.
to themselves, each other. I mean, themselves to each other. Um, you're gonna get a, a whole army full of like testosterone filled
Yeah. It's that age anyway.
idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the peak of your age actually anyway. Yeah.
yeah, and like so the thing that I realized, I in the army, I was actually on a pretty good place. I wasn't being bullied. I was mostly left alone.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually trying to pull out a few who were being bullied, and the way I did that, thinking back, the only thing or connection I can make with it is, so usually when someone is being picked on, they either try to like fight back or they stay quiet and take it, right?
Yeah.
And I was really, really observant in the first few months. And the first few months, like the 3 months, they are quiet. No one is trying to prove themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get into the sergeant, like drill sergeant part of it, where you start training for that. And now everybody all of a sudden wants to show why they are the best ones. And at that point, I had been like trying to understand and read people enough that when one person started picking on me, I, not intentionally, but I might have said a few things that were a bit too much on the nerve, because you look at a person and you can tell a few things about their lifestyle
Yeah.
and the way they were brought up almost instantly if
Yeah.
you look well enough.
Yeah.
And I think I hit a nerve because after that, not a single word. No one was trying to pick on me. Everyone was just quiet. And I didn't pick on anyone else myself. I didn't bother anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I did my shit. I did it well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody leaves you alone. So by the end of it, yeah, we got along really well, really, really well. And a very important lesson that I did learn is, if you are in a leading position, then that doesn't mean that you are ordering people to do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
You are letting them know what we need to get done and who is going to do what. Yeah, that part can be ordering, but you don't just sit around and have a cigarette while the others are like doing something. You actually jump in and you do it yourself as well. And you try to distribute the workloads evenly.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like someone in that group, in your group, then you don't show it. You put everyone under the same workload, because famous words from my father, who was actually in the Soviet military. If you're in a war and you don't get along with your own group, then the bullet that you get is not going to come from the front, it's going to come from your back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you need to have your guys on your side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that seemed to work really well. I was trying to make not everyone happy. No one is ever always happy.
Yep.
But I was trying to make them understand that I'm trying to do my best
Mm-hmm.
to keep it fair amongst all of us, including me.
Yeah, that's such a big lesson, because I I think one of the things about leadership is that you put yourself, or you put, let me, it's a better way, you put your ego to the side, and then as long as you make the other person understand that I am not here, the goal, the idea, the goal, the objective, that's more important, and I'm just like the person who has given this responsibility to make this goal happen with the
Yeah.
help of you guys. It's not, I'm not doing it, it's all of us that's doing it together. And I think one of the, like, it's such a crazy thing, because like nearly 50, 60 years ago, every young person was like, for guys, military was like the boot camp. Every guy went to the military. Like, it's not, uh, in Europe and that sort of trained you in a way that gave you life skills that no other institution can give you. Like the only other place that I can think of is probably sports. But if you play professional sports, then you have this kind of mentality of leadership, leading with example, communication, talking with other people, dealing under pressure. But these are the skills I don't think that are these are like fundamental skills every guy needs to know, every
Yeah.
guy needs to learn, because it's not going to just stay in the on the on the combat field. You deal with the same things when you are dealing with your wife or your girlfriend and all these things. Like,
Yeah.
how do you resolve conflict? How do you lead? How do you make sure that the other person feels heard and you are doing everything that you can to do that? So
Yeah, especially like in a relationship, I do believe it's not saying that this is the problem and
mm,
we are going to fix it like this,
yeah,
but this is a partnership.
yeah,
And a famous not, this is actually a thing that's been circulating a lot lately. So it's been in TikToks, it's been in memes, it's been everywhere. But I do agree with it. It's that it isn't you versus your partner.
yeah,
It's you and your partner
yeah,
versus the problem. So you figure it out together. You have to try to find the golden, like silver lining.
yeah,
You have to figure out why exactly it bothered your partner or it bothered you, instead of just, I don't know, blowing up or trying to force a solution that isn't going to work. Sometimes it is literally just miscommunication.
yeah,
The other person thought you meant something differently when
hmm,
you said or did
yeah,
something, and once you explain it to them why you got to that conclusion, it all of a sudden isn't the problem anymore. And the
hmm,
next time something like that happens, it's easier for them to
hmm,
understand, oh, okay, so this came from here. It's not meant to be hurtful. It's not meant to be bad,
hmm,
which is a big thing for me since I tend to think things through really
yeah,
fast
yeah,
and say things that sometimes don't seem to make sense.
yeah.
But my wife, bless her, she is amazing at it.
Hmm.
She understands most of the things really fast, really well. Sometimes I feel like she understands me a bit better than I understand myself. So, but that has been a thing with communication.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
don't get that by saying that this is the solution. It's literally sometimes just sitting down and saying, the situation sucks. Why do we feel like this?
Mhm, mhm,
And then sometimes you don't even need a solution. It
mhm.
works itself out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, let's jump on to you moving abroad and how was it like? How did you move? And was it there abroad in Australia that you met your wife?
Um, okay. First, no, I didn't meet my wife there.
Mhm,
Um, After a year of the military, I'm being so done with patriotism
mhm,
because it's been shoved down your throat from waking up to going to bed.
mhm,
I got out of the military and I was working for a little bit. I was working as a welder,
mhm,
and I knew I wanted to go to Australia at some point, but I didn't know when.
mhm,
So at one point, it just clicked in my head that I am waiting for the perfect time, which isn't going to happen. The more I move forward with my life, the more responsibilities I'm going to have,
yeah,
the more I'm going to have to leave behind to do
mhm,
it.
mhm,
And I just jumped the gun. My brother went ahead of me like half a year or a few months. And that was a thing that kind of pushed me over the edge since now I know someone there. It's
mhm,
easier to go.
mhm,
I told my employer I was supposed to get a few months of like unemployed time before I go. And then the best thing ever happened. So I've been dealing with music and I came to the band room here for like almost every day for a
mhm,
while. And they saw me interacting with youth.
mhm,
Since I've been in judo, I've been doing the judo trainings for the youth for a long time. I had no problem talking to the youth. I
mhm,
get along with them. I don't feel uncomfortable. And they saw it and they were just like, hey, listen, you're going to Australia, because I talked to them too. They know. Would you like to work here part time before you go?
mhm,
I was like, okay, it's not a physically demanding job. It seems fun. I had no idea what youth work is.
mhm,
Let's do it.
mhm,
And I just jumped in head first.
mhm,
Um, and then I worked here for like 2 or 3 months, and I went to Australia.
mhm,
Um, I got there. I really felt like I don't fit in. I
mhm,
really felt like I don't know what to do. Everything felt like chaos. There were times when we couldn't even afford the $1 coffee from 7-Eleven.
mhm,
It was horrible. And then times got better. You learn how to navigate through job interviews, how to actually apply for jobs without randomly sending 50,000 CVs out
Mm-hmm.
and no one responding. What to do to have it be more efficient. Most of the time, by the end of it, if I wanted a job, then I would have the job interview the same day I wanted that job, and the job mostly started the next day
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you get efficient at it. You
Yeah.
don't you if you keep sending out CVs, then nothing's gonna happen. But I really, really, really liked Australia in some senses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at first, I felt like I didn't fit in, but then after a while, I realized that no one fits in. Australia has so many different cultures and nationalities, like living there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them permanently, some of them backpacking. That nobody fits in, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes most people fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I worked with all sorts of different people. We're talking. I worked with Chinese people, Koreans. I worked with Middle Eastern people. I worked with people from the U.S., from all around Europe, like absolutely from everywhere. It was amazing, and I got to learn so much about different cultures and how the people present themselves, which is so very different with different nationalities and different upbringings, and also the temperament. So, for example, the one Middle Eastern man that I worked with I thought he was really mean, like all the time, and so rude.
Mm-hmm.
But then it turned out after I was working with him for a while, I just realized that no, that's just him trying to poke fun.
Mm-hmm.
And once I cracked that, he was a really fun person to be around, right? But if you just take it at face value, he himself, I'm not saying everyone from like that part of the world is like that, but
Mm-hmm.
they were.
Yeah.
Um, and that is actually one of the things that I noticed about my wife as well, that she does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people thought she was rude, but it clicked in my head instantly because I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with a person like that, and they were really fun,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Um, the Asian people, for example, the Chinese landlord who I had was very shy, never knew when to ask for help. Um, there were a lot of like there were some stereotypes as well, which I'm not gonna throw out because it might just be her.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to I don't want to push those forward, but there were some stereotypes definitely. The African people that we worked with were amazing, so friendly. They were really open to like conversations. They had no problem explaining what was bothering them, and just working with all these different types of people, you kind of realize that uh, we can actually like everyone. I could get along with all of them if I just learn to get to know them enough to understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're mean off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
I try to understand what they're doing.
What were you working as that made you come in contact with so many different nationalities?
I was actually working as a roofer.
Okay.
So we had a project. I got into a company that uh, took old roofings, they took them down and put new metal roofings on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that isn't the reason why I worked with so many different people. The reason why I worked with so many different people was because the pandemic happened.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, puberty. Anyway, the pandemic happened, and the employers understood that um, they don't have work anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it wasn't just the people, the backpackers who were working for them. They held the whole company meeting. They were like, listen, guys, we don't have work for you. We don't have anything to do.
Mm-hmm.
The only people they kept was the people who they were sponsoring because they were contractually obligated to them.
Okay.
And I just started looking for jobs left and right. Some employers forwarded us on to other companies. Their friends said, "Okay, look, these are good workers. Take them. They'll do a good job. We know you have a high workload right now." And by the end of it, um, I was jumping through company to company. For a while, it was pretty much like 6 work days in a week. That's the standard in Australia. In a week, I worked under 5 or 6 different companies. Each day, a different company. I worked a day, and by nighttime, I go to a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I got to meet a lot of people,
Okay.
and some of them I ended up working with together in multiple companies. So we just kind of like happened together again. Um, so that was a thing. So, and we kept meeting up after work too. So
Okay.
it's not just meeting them once, meeting them twice. Some of them we got along well enough, so we just met up. We had a good time. We talked about how's life, how is the pandemic messing us up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's actually one of the reasons why I came back, because if you're struggling this hard to find a consistent work, then you're stressing every single day, right?
Yeah.
And instead of stressing, I knew I had a family back here who was waiting for me to come back home.
Yeah.
My brother was already home by that time. Why am I there pretty much like trying to rough it out alone?
Mm-hmm.
If I could come back,
Mm-hmm.
I don't for the time being, I could come back. I could go to my parents' house. We have a massive house that we helped build. We have room in there for me.
So, yeah.
Yeah, like I can definitely shelter out there. And my like the company that my dad owns didn't have problems in work wise,
Mm-hmm.
so I could have even gotten a job there.
Mm-hmm. Um, Talking about your time abroad,
Hmm.
can you bring or talk about any incidents or memorable, like something that was a cultural shock to you living in Estonia all your life and that was considered completely crazy or normal in for example Australia? Anything that comes to your mind?
Well, yeah. So this is sort of ties in with the youth work as well,
Mm-hmm.
because youth workers, at least here, are very open as well. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that much of a shock, but I don't know how I would have handled it if I wouldn't have worked here for a few months
Mm-hmm.
before that. I went there. The first time I walk into the hostel that I'm staying in,
Mm-hmm.
I step into the room, and across the room I can hear a bunch of people talking. Well, everybody needs sex, and then they just keep talking about like sex really openly, and I'm just like, wow, wow. Like you no matter how drunk you are in an Estonian bar, you don't hear a conversation. This was in midday. Everybody was sober as all hell, and they're just discussing this openly,
Mm-hmm.
which was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying anything bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think people need to talk about these topics more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't that much of a shock, because as a youth worker, you are supposed to be open about these things, because everybody needs a person that they know they can turn to if they
Yeah.
have problems, right? This is also a very controversial part of youth work, because especially for me as a man, because there it is a sensitive topic to talk about,
Yep.
and you have to thread the line very, very carefully. You can't say anything wrong. You can't go over the line with even just a hair.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be very careful and thought out with what you say.
Yeah. That's very true. And so
The openness was the Australian
yeah,
part that
yeah.
intrigued me.
So how did it change you, this experience? Like you were there for a year?
Yeah.
Okay. So how has this experience changed you B- before going to Australia, after coming to Estonia this year? How it made you different?
Definitely the fact that I knew that I could be independent
Mm-hmm.
100%,
Mm-hmm.
not rely on anyone. I went through some rough times. Um, like just the knowledge that you can pull through.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of security, because if you've been in a really bad place, then if the next bad times like come, you've already overcome
Yep.
something, so
Yep.
you can do it again,
Yep.
even if it's worse.
Yep.
It's gonna be definitely gonna be harder. It's not gonna be fun, and you won't like it in the like during while it's happening. But at least
You
you've
know.
done,
Yeah.
yeah, you've done something like that.
Yeah. You've seen yourself overcome challenges, and then I really do think that the circuit in our mind that we have to overcome challenges is the same. Like I think the challenge that you overcome, I don't know, tying your shoes when you were little, is the same circuit that builds up over time for the challenge, I don't know, when you're looking for a job and when you're doing something really huge as well. It's the same thing. So that is why I really often I believe that small things have really huge value. Like something as simple as making your bed. It's the same like circuit in your head that you do when you, I don't know, like when you're working as an engineer or making projects or like giving a speech or these huge things as well. So okay, so you came back, and now let's go towards the main topic. How did you meet your wife? How was the whole experience like? Um, and the immediate aftermath. So
Okay. So at the time when I met my wife, I was working as a youth worker already,
mhm.
under a different company, not this one, and organization, not company.
Mhm.
Um,
Was it here?
no,
Okay.
no. Uh, and then we had
Mm-hmm.
a volunteer from, well, Morocco,
Mm-hmm.
um, and didn't even meet her at the very first week when she got here, right? I did meet her when I had to run through another youth center to go talk to like one of the youth who had problems with going to school, integrating, like going to work. But they were very antisocial, and we just had a meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember running like into the kitchen of that youth center to grab, I think it was a glass or something, and obviously you recognize right away that this is the volunteer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be honest, Estonians, we are as pale as the Irish,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden there was someone who isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look foreign as well in Estonian. That's
Yeah.
okay, but
Yeah.
like you notice straight away.
Yeah.
Um, that's literally how I met my wife at the time. I was in a relationship at the time,
Mm-hmm.
so was she,
Mm-hmm.
and it started out very weirdly
Mm-hmm.
because we both ended our relationship not knowing, like not talking about it. We didn't make any, we weren't even almost talking at the time yet when it happened. Like I broke up with my partner at the time, she broke up with her partner. It was in the same week,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next week we started working together for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And our first conversations already felt so comfortable. We were very open. We were talking about our both of our past relationships, what we think went wrong, what we could have done better, what we think. Like we didn't blame anyone. It wasn't us being like, "Oh no, they were complete assholes." No, no. It's just some people bring out, like she always says as well. Some people bring out worst parts of each other without actively trying to.
Yeah.
So like we were being respectful towards our ex partners, but we were still discussing it. And after a while, it just we thought it was going to turn into a casual thing because we're working together, so
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be awkward either way.
Mm-hmm.
And that casual thing turned into a legitimate relationship, which then by the end of it turned into a marriage. But we were both very careful and communicative because the first week of it becoming even casual was a very thorough conversation about how this could just be very much a rebound for both of us, and it could end very poorly. So even if it does end at any point, we're working together. How are we going to manage it? What are our expectations? It was a very, very thorough like topic.
Mm-hmm. But just to to repeat again for the listeners that
Hmm.
your wife is from the Middle East. Does she speak Estonian? Has she lived in Estonia her whole life?
No.
Okay.
So she did come here as a volunteer
Okay.
for that same project.
Okay.
Yeah, and she is Middle Eastern. Yeah. Let me think. And someone I think someone's calling me.
Okay, we are back. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. She's Middle Eastern. And she does not speak Estonian yet, although she has an amazing head for languages.
Mm-hmm.
She speaks multiple, maybe not fluently, but she still speaks them. And with Estonian, she understands a lot more than she lets on. She
Mm-hmm.
might not be able to answer everything in Estonian yet, but a lot of the times when we're having a conversation and she's in the room, she can just pitch in like mid
Oh,
conversation
okay.
without anyone translating.
So the ability to understand what is being said without knowing. But how long has she been here in Estonia?
So she's been here a bit over a year now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And she came here for a purpose of volunteering.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So she had also never been like, in any contact with youth work at all. But she did discover that this is something that she would want to do as well. So she is planning on learning Estonian well enough to go and learn that in the uni as well.
Mm-hmm. But like, I'm trying to understand what is, because it's very difficult for a foreigner to come to Estonia normally because You either have to have a work or you either have a job. But how did she come first place in Estonia?
Well, okay, so the European Solidarity Corp,
Okay,
they have programs
okay, okay.
where they fund youth who want to try out different jobs, activities, or live in different countries for a while
Mm-hmm.
and volunteer in a certain position.
Mm-hmm.
One of those options was a youth worker in Estonia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She that didn't know what Estonia was, didn't know what youth work was. She just thought this might be interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and then she came here.
Okay, okay, okay.
So the project pretty much it doesn't pay for your plane tickets,
Mm-hmm.
but it does help you find a job.
Mm-hmm.
So they make sure that you have a roof over your head.
Mm-hmm.
You have at least some amount of money each month. It's a small amount because you're volunteering,
Yeah.
and a workplace, but you don't work full time.
Okay.
So you have a very specific set of rules how you are allowed to work. You just get to dabble a bit in the
Mm.
field that you're volunteering in.
And how long is this? Is this a year or?
It depends on the project. Right
Okay.
now, we have a volunteer who will be here for 6 months.
Okay.
But she was supposed to be for a year. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And her current like immigration status is that she's based on here on a spouse visa or
Yes.
okay.
Her residency permit is in pending
Okay.
right now,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, she is already here with on her spouse visa,
Okay.
and since the residency permit is pending, should her spouse visa be like that, should it expire,
Mm-hmm.
she has grounds to appeal for an extension
Okay.
because it is not up to us if the police and border guard won't move it along fast enough.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. I think that should. I think that I I think for people who have like Estonian citizens who have spouses who are also working, I think that that's shouldn't be a problem. I mean, a couple of years ago in Estonia, it wasn't so hard to get a resident permit. There didn't look so much into that.
Yeah.
But for example, when I moved here for my resident permit, there weren't many things that I had to do. But for example, when my wife moved here, she's from Pakistan. Uh, we had like a set of like 8 9 questions where they asked us everything about how we met, how we got married. So I made like a 8 page PDF document listing everything, showing pictures from the marriage and everything, and how we met and all that. And we attached her CV as well. And so it's you have to make sure and you have to prove it to the police and border guard that this person will not be a burden on the social welfare system. And I know from a few people that work in relocation and all that is that a few professionals cannot bring their wives because the wives are they haven't worked professionally. Mostly they're from like South Asian countries, and then uh, if they don't also speak English, and their spouse visas are actually denied because the government or the police and border guard feels that there is no sufficient reason that they can contribute here. So the reason why I'm saying that is for because being in Estonia, I mean being in the front line of YouTube as well, you get a lot of comments from people like generally Estonians who don't know about foreigners and who also think that okay, foreigners are just coming here for because there is some kind of a charity given here, but it's absolutely very hard,
Yeah.
and you can't be in Estonia unless you are contributing in some way. You can't even enter actually.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is very different compared to some countries. You don't come to Estonia to get the ticket for a better life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You don't.
It's not that.
Yeah, you don't. You in Estonia, since the work culture is still brought up from the Soviet times,
Yeah.
you have to work your ass off. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, but like you do,
Yeah, yeah.
because otherwise you're not gonna be able to keep a job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. About so, what was it like? Is your wife religious? Or
Yes,
okay,
she is.
she's religious. Is she? She's from Morocco. So because I know that Morocco has Christians and also Muslims, and there is
Mhm.
quite a big population. So which one?
She's Muslim.
She's Muslim. Okay. So how was it like you meeting your wife, your future wife at that time? Um, because you've been in relationships before, what were the things or the challenges that came up because she was from a different culture? She looked different. She was also religious as well. What were the things that sort of popped up every time and that made you realize, oh, this woman is different? Like,
Well, I mean, this woman is different. It was a lot of things, not in a bad way at all.
mm-hmm,
She was amazing, but religion was never really an issue.
mm-hmm,
It wasn't anything that was that got in our way or anything like that. Because it's this is the thing that I think played a part from both of us. I wasn't making a big deal out of it. I was understanding. I was trying to, like, she was brought up a certain way.
mm-hmm,
I'm not gonna change that.
mm-hmm,
If anything, I am gonna respect that. And
mm-hmm,
if we don't match, then there's the problem, right?
mm-hmm,
But her as well, she didn't press anything onto me,
mm-hmm,
and this is a big thing. If for me specifically, I think if she would have made it a big thing that the first few times when we started, like, being casual or actually getting in a relationship, if she would have told me off the bat that I need to convert, or
mm-hmm,
I need to be religious or whatever, that would have been an issue.
mm-hmm,
But since she was understanding of my worldview, we
mm-hmm,
had talked about it, and I wasn't stepping on her toes with it.
mm-hmm,
As in, if she needs to pray, she will pray. If she has Ramadan, then I will 100% try my best to make it more
mm-hmm,
comfortable for her,
mm-hmm,
and so on. So I think a religion in a relationship, or a religious difference in a relationship, is a problem if you make it into a problem.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, obviously there are different things that you have to take into account. For example, premarital sex and everything like that. If let's say religions mostly do not approve of that, right? So here comes the part. You either accept it or you don't.
mm-hmm.
If you don't, then you have a problem in the
Yeah,
relationship. If you accept it, then where's the problem,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I think the thing that is, like, we touched a little bit briefly as well, is that what do you value more? Like, if you value the relationship, if you value the relationship between you and the other person more, then you will do whatever it takes to make sure that you are accommodating to the other person as well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to come with respecting the other person and their values. You don't say that, okay, why are you, I don't know, praying? Like, why are you fasting? Why? It's
Yeah.
stupid. You don't. I mean, even though it might be difficult to comprehend for a lot of people, it's starting with just the fact that you respect each other. I think um, a lot of people that I meet, like all the things that I've read about relationships, is that it it starts with respect. Like, as soon as you respect, then in everything you can build on top of that. Um, so okay, so now you two are like, you know each other, that you love each other. So how
Oh
was
yeah.
it like uh, coming to the sort of like the main topic is uh, you with your family, you with the Estonian culture itself as well. And if you can also, I'm sure you must have talked to your wife as well already. That has she ever faced discrimination or feeling like an outsider since the time that she has been here before you as well, for
Mm,
meeting you?
so from my family, um, and this is a thing that I was worried about in the beginning. I thought that, okay, maybe it's gonna be a bit more difficult for her to integrate,
Mm-hmm.
like, as in, into my family setting,
Yeah, yeah.
not into Estonia. And in reality, I haven't seen that be a problem
Mm-hmm.
at all. My parents, and this is the best part, I've been picking away at it for years, and they used to be very conservative in all sorts of topics like that. So foreigners should stay in their own country. Why are you coming here? And so on and so on. And I've been picking away at it slowly ever since I was a teen. And by now, I was afraid of it because I don't know. Maybe they're just making that face for me. That,
Mm.
okay, they're
That they
met.
love their son and they're
Yeah,
forcing themselves. Yeah.
yeah. But in reality, they met her, and after the first few times of meeting her, they loved her.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. My younger brothers, my older brother, everyone adored her. Um, my younger brothers, the first time when they actually got to have a conversation with her, ran to my grandmother's place afterwards, like when they went and visited, and they just wouldn't shut up about her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother, who doesn't speak any English,
Mm-hmm.
she really likes her. The only problem is that she feels like she can't communicate with her.
Mm-hmm.
My dad doesn't speak absolutely any English. Well,
Mm-hmm.
okay, he does, but only a few words. So it is kind of like a translation thing, but they've found workarounds for it. So since she is learning Estonian, there are some things that she is already stating in Estonian all the
Mm-hmm.
time. She knows how to say if everything is okay, if she
Yeah.
needs help or anything like that. They get along really well.
Mm-hmm.
Google Translate is a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
My younger brothers both speak English well enough so that when I'm not there, they can translate for me.
Okay. Okay. So that's so adjusted really well with the family as well.
Yeah.
But how how did it feel for both of you when you started to expand outside of your family as well into the friends, general society, and these things?
Actually, it was the other way around. Friends came first.
Okay. Okay.
Because for me, a very massive thing in my relationships, which doesn't dictate whether I have a relationship or not, but it's just a thing that I hold in the back of my head afterwards. If my best friend likes the person or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there have been partners where he is like, okay, I don't like this person, and that doesn't break their relationship for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is a thing
This is
that,
an important thing
yeah,
that you value your friend's
yeah,
opinion, your best
yeah,
friend's opinion. Yeah.
and I know he's honest with me.
Yeah.
He's not gonna say it to their face,
Yeah.
but he's honest with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And with her, so when I told him about it, he was actually really, really disappointed
Mm-hmm.
because I just came out of a relationship and we were just talking. Okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna be stupid as all hell. We're gonna get drunk. We're gonna do stupid things all around, and then a bit later, I'm just like, hey, so I met this girl,
Mm-hmm.
and he was so disappointed. But after meeting her once, um, he absolutely adored her as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we get like now what we do is we hang out the three of us a lot,
Mm-hmm.
really, really, really often.
Mm-hmm.
We all enjoy each other's company. He doesn't feel like the third wheel. We don't
Mm-hmm.
make him feel uncomfortable, and he enjoys spending time with us. So instead of the regular relationship problem that most people have, where okay, he got into a relationship, so now he doesn't have time for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, he got into a relationship with this amazing person, and
Mm-hmm.
now we get to spend time together.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously have time for ourselves as
Mm-hmm.
well with my best friend and with my wife,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also that time we can spend all three of us
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So I think that is an amazing thing. And outside, I don't see it being a problem at all. I think that is mostly my mindset because if anyone would try to say that it's a problem, then I just dismiss them thinking that it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'd make it very clear that it isn't a problem for
Mm-hmm.
us. So if it's a problem for you, then you have to deal with it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are still doing this the way we want to do this.
Mm. How do you think have you found out anything new about the Estonian attitude towards foreigners since you have been married, since you have known your wife?
Actually, it's mostly been positive.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is just my point of view. There are very different people all around Estonia.
Mm-hmm.
My experience has been more positive than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more people are open to it. They think it's really cool. They
Mm-hmm.
think it's really awesome that a person comes and tries to integrate here. But a thing that I have noticed is not just with foreigners coming here, but people who were born here, you just have to try to learn at least a few basic things in the Estonian language,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we're talking about the Russian families who live here, like I don't hold a grudge against anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I accept everyone as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Russian kids in this town who come and visit every day, some of them don't speak any Estonian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna judge them differently because of it.
Yeah.
But what I have noticed is that a lot of people, Estonians specifically, have a problem if there's a foreigner who wants to live in the country but is absolutely against learning the language
Mm-hmm.
because there's so little of us.
Yeah.
So for us, it just feels like, okay, so now we're transitioning to English. So Estonia is gonna be gone soon,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But if people try, like what she does, the very first weeks when she got here, she has been learning Estonian. She's
Yeah.
been putting in Estonian words. She might say them wrong. No one cares if she
Yeah.
says
Yeah.
it wrong. It's actually adorable. Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Uh, And even if you just start the conversation with tere,
Mm-hmm.
and then you keep speaking in English or
Yeah.
whatever, then the attitude is already a lot more
Very
positive.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that I felt myself as well. So much so that I always tell to foreigners that even if you're coming here for 2 weeks, just learn 10 words.
Yeah.
Even don't put it away. Don't postpone it. Like start with very very small thing. It takes very little. That's what I have noticed as well. Um, like I was at the police and border guard, the resident permit place and all that,
Mhm.
and I started in Estonia and I tried explaining myself. I couldn't understand majority of what she was saying, but we still got along really well. We tried to explain to each other, and then also she brought somebody who translated, and we were like, I was understanding so much of her that eventually the translator just started talking in Estonian as well. So that was very nice. So, uh, so so what would you say? So firstly, have you met anybody else who's in a similar situation like you, like Estonian guy with a Middle Eastern woman?
No.
No, because
No.
I think it's very rare. I think the opposite is very much. I have seen a lot, but like Estonian lady with a foreign man, that I've seen a lot. But this is something that I have not seen much. Very rarely that is it is that I have seen.
Well, I think the play is a factor here. It's the same thing as I mentioned before, that my dad was very conservative in some areas, and so it ended up being this sort of weird harmony.
Yeah.
So conservative in Estonia, in some ways, is similar to like the let's say Muslim conservative understandings of things. And I'm not saying I'm not saying anything radical. I
Yeah.
mean, like in general, right? Some things are similar.
Yeah.
There were some things that were different enough that I stated straight off the bat that this is not something that's gonna, like, I'm not gonna accept if this is happening every single time. For example, when we're eating,
Mhm.
and she has a thing that she feels like she has to take all the dishes away from the table,
Mhm.
while, and she said, like, oh, it's traditional that men just sit down and the women take the dishes. I said, no, I'm not a child.
Mhm.
I can sometimes I can do it, and sometimes I will happily let you do it, but
Mhm.
not all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I am a person too.
Yeah.
I made those dishes too. I can help clean them up too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like, in general, the respect and how you treat a person and all that my dad made, like, pretty much, let's say, forced into me.
Mhm. Mhm.
They kind of harmonize with some of the understandings from her worldview.
Okay. Okay.
So this is, I think, what makes us match
Okay.
really, really well.
That's a very good point because what you're saying is that conservative values that are positive, like positive conservative value, and I think majority of conservative values are positive. It's just that it goes into one extreme, then it
Yeah.
goes really bad. But it's so like good that this insight that the conservative values like people have for families in Estonia, they are similar to what a family might have, for example, in Morocco.
Yeah.
And there is a common thread here that sort of uh, you know makes you similar.
Yeah.
Um,
So, like, for example, I'm sorry, it just
yeah,
popped
yeah.
into my head. A thing that I very recently saw. So, I'm not gonna state any names, but like, there was a clip. I saw it on the TV when my parents were watching something, and uh, a man was sitting down right behind the table, and what happened was that a woman came from off the camera. She was wearing white gloves,
Mm,
and she pulled the chair out from under the table. The man was sitting, and then the woman pushed the chair underneath him,
mm,
right? And I'm just looking at it, and I'm thinking, like, listen, this in any way would I not accept this,
mm,
right? This is conservative, but for me, if anyone should move anyone's chair like that, it would be me for my wife,
mm-hmm,
because I want to give her attention. I want
mm-hmm.
to show people that I'm taking care of her,
Yeah, yeah,
not the other way around.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But like, this is a conservative thing, and it's not a negative thing.
yeah, yeah,
It doesn't mean that every time she's sitting down, I'm throwing my laptop across the room,
yeah,
running there and moving the chair. No, But when we're out together and I want her to have a good time, then I take care of her.
Mm-hmm.
I treat her like a woman,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is conservative to some senses
Mhm.
because in today's age, a lot of those things are getting blurred out.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong if both parties agree to it, right? If both sides are happy with it, then that's perfectly fine. But for me personally, I don't see that being like okay in our relationship, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So like that is a thing that it popped into my head. So this is
Mm-hmm.
a positive conservative
Yeah.
thing for me,
Yeah.
for example.
What do you think were the challenges, both with you and your wife and outside as well, during this whole time and even to this now? What do you think were the challenges that you had to overcome?
Well, the big one that I'm not going to mention because like I'm not going to get into details
Yeah.
because of legalities wise.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am not going to be shaming anyone. I am not gonna name any names. I'm just gonna give a very rough outline.
Yeah.
So my wife actually got deported for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and due to certain circumstances, at one point, she was literally effectively trapped in Turkey
Oh, okay.
for months. She
Oh.
couldn't work, she couldn't do anything. I was here, I was trying to hold down two jobs while trying to keep in contact with her as much as possible.
At the time you were married or no?
Uh,
Or you knew each other but you weren't married.
no, we were married at that
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was a whole thing. And I'm not going to go into details because
Mm-hmm.
it is a long story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I don't want to get into
Mm-hmm.
anything too thick with it.
Yeah.
This is definitely a thing. We couldn't get a new visa. We
Mm.
couldn't get anything
Mm.
because obviously looking at us, then a lot of people thought that like if we are trying to get this visa based on a relationship, then it's a sham relationship. They're just
Oh.
trying to get into Estonia,
Oh, okay.
and so on and so on. Um, this has definitely been one of the harder parts of it.
So Estonian legal system, you have had to have, like, you have gone through it like a lot.
Oh no, like at one point when I called the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they recognized my voice, knew my name, and as soon as I said hey, they were like, "Hey, I am pulling up your record right now."
Okay,
Like the
okay.
file.
Yeah.
Like this was a whole thing. It was so crazy.
Hmm.
Literally, I've never struggled with it before. This whole thing ended up with me being diagnosed with depression for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I was struggling with that at the same time because like this is insane, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We are just two people trying to have a life,
Yeah.
and then one thing goes wrong. One person, like not one person, but like one thing goes wrong. Let's say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing goes wrong, which was in parts our fault as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's only someone else's fault,
Yeah, yeah.
but at the same time, it goes wrong, and now all of a sudden, they would literally rather see us like rot than try and help us out.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I went to the Police and Border Guard. I called even I think I called multiple ministers that I even shouldn't have because
Mm-hmm.
of the whole situation. Every time I had to call them, my blood pressure went up because I
Mm.
already know that they're gonna tell me to send an email, and
Yeah.
I send an email, and then they're gonna answer within 5 days, and they're gonna say the same thing that they've said every single time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it got to a point where, like, at one point, I was on the phone with them, and I apologized later, but it just felt like they give me the same answers every single time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trying to help us. So at one point, I was just cursing over the phone. I was so angry. I was so mad. And then, like, a bit goes by and something got a little bit better because if everything goes wrong for long enough, then everything seems personal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. It's only happening to me. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it to
Yeah,
us.
to us, yeah.
Yeah, but like then something for finally went right, and then I called back and I was like, hey, listen, I called a bit ago. I
Hmm.
just wanted to apologize. My emotions were all over the place.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, we understand. We've been trying to figure this out too.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I know it. I know it's not your fault.
Hmm.
This is literally me screaming at the cashier because there isn't a discount on a
Yeah,
product
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm sorry. I am sorry, right? But yeah, it was a whole hassle.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a job hasn't been a problem. Um, trying to adjust to life in Estonia hasn't been a problem. Anything like that hasn't been a problem, but the visa thing.
The legal status, yeah. I like. I think you're because now you can understand like how important is the simply your passport or something as simple as that is to you. Like it doesn't matter who the person is. If they, I don't, if that person had a European passport, how different would it be? Like
Yeah.
it would have been miles different from what the situation is right now. And all it takes is that person was born um, like a little bit towards this side of the world, then a little bit towards that side of the world, and that would have made complete difference. So Estonian legal or like residency requirements, and this was like the big challenge that you had to face in your time. But now everything is sorted, right?
It's on its way.
Okay, it's on its.
It's so much better
Mm-hmm.
than it was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's still not sorted.
Okay, your wife is here now with
Yeah,
you.
she is. She is here. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I will count this thing as sorted
Okay.
when she has at least a residency permit.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because that, like, until that, I don't think I will get like an actual proper good night's sleep before
Okay.
that paper arrives.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah. It's a big thing for for any foreigner here, and to to see it from coming from a local person, I think there are very few people who like. I can imagine you explaining this problem to your friends or to other people, and surprises that they would have because it's um it's not a very common thing. People don't know generally about that, especially local people.
Yeah, and the best part, so this thing was heavy enough that when I told like some of my closer friends or someone, I actually told my employer too,
Mm-hmm.
because she helped me out a lot during
Mm-hmm.
that time with like lessening my workload and like trying to be understanding at the
Mm-hmm.
time. But it was so heavy
Mm-hmm.
that most people with even a little bit of sense of empathy, you could see their faces drop,
Mm-hmm.
and they like you could see they got more and more uncomfortable with each passing second.
Mm-hmm.
And I by the end of it, I just didn't tell anyone anymore. I was just
Mm.
like, okay, we're still going through this. When someone asked how are we doing, still the same.
Yeah.
And like you don't want to ruin other people's like whole day if they for a fact
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
help you.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
If it's someone who can help me, yeah, definitely. I
Definitely.
can lay it down. I can make a timeline. That was one of the times when I could literally they asked me, so when did this happen? And I would say the date, then I could almost say the time as well. I remembered it off the top of my head because
Mm-hmm.
everything that happened was such a big
So,
thing.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, like there was no point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then one point we got back, and then a lot of my friends realized that they didn't even like I realized a lot of my friends didn't even know anything about it.
Yeah.
So some of my friends and close people close to me found out about it once she got back,
Mm-hmm.
because like for a few months I was literally missing.
Mm-hmm.
I came to work, and after work I went home,
Mm-hmm.
and I opened up a call with her,
Mm-hmm.
and we tried to sort this thing out.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened. That went on for months
Mm-hmm.
and months and months, and people literally didn't know anything about
Yeah.
me. It was a whole thing. And then on top of this, you're here and you're dealing with your own problems, like in your personal life.
Yeah.
But a part of youth work is also sitting down with the youth
Yeah.
and they tell you about their problems.
Mm-hmm.
And their problems they are problems. They are
Yeah.
absolutely, some of them are heavy,
Yeah.
right? Some of them are things that you're thinking to yourself like, oh my god, like how are you handling this
Mm.
in any sort of way? But I can't lie that when sometimes someone came to me with a problem, in the back of my head I'm like, that's nothing, you want to hear something better? But and then you're trying to like listen to all of that as well, but it keeps piling up.
Yeah.
So by the end of it you just feel like, okay, I'm not just carrying our weight, I'm carrying
Yeah.
the youth as well. So this is like it became a weird amalgamation.
Yeah.
And when that weight dropped off of our shoulders, when we like I actually got to bring her back myself because
Mm-hmm.
I went there. When we got back here, it was euphoric. I was ecstatic.
Mm-hmm.
It was so weird. It was weird looking at her face again.
Mm-hmm.
It was like she felt so familiar, yet in some ways she was like unfamiliar, because this whole thing, like, it changed both of us to an
Mm-hmm.
extent, and we're still working through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, when that whole of that thing dropped, it was like a magical moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would do it all again in a heartbeat. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna say anything I'm not gonna say anything like, "Oh no, this wasn't worth it." It was in every sense of the way it was worth it. But I don't know if I ever want to go through a feeling of that joy again, just because of what has to come before it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, yeah, I think one of the worst part of whole thing is how out of hands it is from you. Like, I mean, if it's like, for example, finding a job or going through these things, then you know that the more effort you put in, the more the results can come in. But if you're talking about things like these, like these, like yes or no decisions, like that are made from the top, and that you have no control over that, so it's
And they,
ridden with anxiety.
yeah,
Like,
and they don't even tell you why. They
yeah,
give you
yeah,
a rough estimate, and then at one point, I literally asked. I was like, "Okay." They asked me like, "Okay, but why was the visa denied?" And I was like, "I don't know. You tell me. I could like I can read it to you, but like in the grand scheme of things, I would have to go to the sea, pick up the moss from the most southern rock, and do some witchcraft to understand why exactly it was pushed back.
hmm,
Because this could mean a million things."
yeah. That's a whole lot of different things that I've seen myself as well, because I myself come in contact with a lot of foreigners, and I think it has become a lot different because right now there has been a lot more influx of foreigners, so they're more strict, they're more cautious there, and a lot of times it doesn't make much sense from our perspective as well. And yeah, so it's a whole another ball game as well.
Yeah.
I think I want to go on to your profession. That's the final topic that I want to really talk about, is that youth work. Um, what are the challenges that youths of Estonia are currently facing today? The biggest challenges that you see every day happening?
Uh, well, I mean, you mentioned it yourself as well. Torn family life
Yeah.
is a massive one.
Mm.
If you don't have anyone at home who you can talk to about your problems,
Yeah.
then you're gonna feel alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a massive thing. And most of the time, people who are young, they don't really understand that when they're going out and doing something downright stupid, then they're trying to fill a void for something that is literally just communication.
Yeah.
So what we try to do with non-formal education, and this isn't the main goal, but this is part of it, is literally being there so that they can come and tell us our problems, like what is bothering them. And we're not
Mm.
going to shoo them away. We're not
Yeah.
going to downplay the problems. They are valid feelings that they're feeling, and we're not going to go tell anyone.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't sit here and start telling you about, oh, this person told me that they have problems with this,
Mm-hmm.
because that very much defeats the purpose. We have a trust relationship between all of the youth,
Mm-hmm.
and like at least all of the youth who tell us about their issues. And I'm not gonna go and tell anyone else
Yeah.
about it. So that gives them a sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
Now they come here, they can tell us their problems, and all of a sudden they feel heard
Mm.
and they don't feel invalidated.
Mm.
They actually, on the opposite, because most of the time, like not most, pretty much all of the times,
Mm.
these problems are massive problems.
Yeah.
And you're thinking to yourself, how have you been holding up so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Um, then of course we get the whole like social media of it, which I was in a very weird age in a sense when this thing was developing. So for a certain part of my life, I grew up without it, and then at some point it became popular. So I've seen both sides to some extent, and I can see a massive difference. So for example, I don't have most social media um, like accounts and platforms and stuff, or even if I do, I don't use them almost at all. The main one that I use isn't even Facebook; it's Messenger. That's
Mm-hmm.
the main thing that I use. Um, Instagram, I think I post like one picture every 10th full moon or something.
Mm.
It's a whole thing, right? And it's just feeding into it. A lot, if you're looking at other people's pictures on Instagram, for example, what you're seeing is the picture of a setup which portrays their perfect
Yeah.
life, right?
Mm-hmm.
They look perfect. They look happy. They look absolutely the best they could. But what you don't know is that 5 seconds before that picture, they were having a massive argument with their partner,
Mm-hmm.
or their car got hit by whatever, right? Or 10 minutes after that, something else horrible happened. You don't see that. They don't
Yeah.
post that. They only post the perfect moments.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're scrolling through someone's Instagram feed and you're like, their life is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Why is mine like this?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize it.
Mm.
They don't realize that this is a thing that they're doing. So whatever influencer you take, very few openly talk about their
Yeah.
issues as well.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that affects a lot of youth. It starts to like kill your self-esteem because you feel worthless compared to
All the other.
maybe another person in your class if you're going through their Instagram like profile, right? Because why are they having a perfect life?
Mm-hmm.
Why do they go and why do they get to go and like spend vacations in Egypt or something?
Mm.
Well, I have to sit here and literally one thing that they don't know, maybe the reason they can go to Egypt is because their parents literally just divorced and now
Yeah.
have like from that divorce they got enough money to go and take that vacation to Egypt. It's a whole thing.
So you mean to say that this issue of, you see it as a very big challenge for the youth currently in Estonia as well, that they feel inadequate, and that part of it has to do with the social media influence that they see from all. Do you see it equally between boys and girls, or is it different based on their gender?
It's a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I think the effect is the same,
Yeah.
but I think the point of view is
Mm.
different.
Mm.
For women or girls, a lot of the problems isn't just related to like their life looks perfect. It's how another person looks. So we have a society that's built up in a way that women have to look perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And then you take these Instagram photos that maybe they haven't used any like editing tools on the picture itself.
Yeah.
But you can be damn sure that before that picture there was a whole lot of like makeup that's been applied, or maybe let's say Photoshop or whatever has been applied, or filters. Now you don't even need Photoshop. Open up TikTok, you have like 50,000 different filters which change you seamlessly. Like it doesn't warp the background of the picture itself. And this creates a massive like misunderstanding. There are some people who are literally perfect compared to me, and then you see them in real life and you actually realize, okay, one of their eyes is looking pretty much 90 degrees to the side. This is a very very like rough but it's an extreme, right? But like they're balding, they don't like they don't have two of their front teeth, but on their picture they look perfect. Because you can do that. I'm not saying everyone is like that. There are some people who do look amazing without makeup or anything. But now you have in your phone the little box that you carry with you all the time, millions of people who look perfect. And then you look in the mirror, and in your mirror you don't have those filters. Even if you take a picture with those filters, you know it's a filter. Right? And I do understand on TikTok, but you can see what filters are on there. Yeah, but it starts chipping away at you piece by piece.
Exactly.
It isn't the thing that you look at the tags and you're like, oh, okay, so this had the pretty face filter. That I'm not gonna judge myself based on that. No.
It still hurts.
Yeah. And it keeps going. And then you get to a person who doesn't. I have some of those youth in my training groups who they don't even have a smartphone, right? They're outside, they're enjoying themselves. You see that their self-confidence compared to a lot of people their age is amazing. Like not over the top, but healthy
Self-esteem they have.
And their physical form is better because they're not after school, they're not like laying around on the couch or their bed, which even I am guilty of. I'm gonna be honest. But they go outside, they play ball with their friends, they go ride a bike, they do whatever. And again, a part of conservatism that is kind of good, but to an extent. I'm not saying take away the kids' phones, throw them into the river, never give them. Not at all. Phones are amazing. Internet is an amazing invention, but it should be used thoughtfully.
But like, do you think substance abuse is a consequence of that thing? And how do you think it's a big problem with the young student or young people in Estonia?
Substance abuse in and of itself, I don't think that's a massive, like, I don't think that affects that.
It's that a big problem? Okay.
It is a problem.
Okay.
But it doesn't affect self-esteem. So why I think it goes down this route is it starts affecting your self-esteem if you are literally abusing
Mm-hmm.
substances, absolutely, right? But with everything that you do, you have to make sure if you do it in a moderate and
Mm.
considered and safe
Mm.
way, in a safe way, then it can actually have a benefits, right? I'm not talking about smoking
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, but there are things that um, I am not openly allowed to say that I do. Like I don't condone it, but I do. I do believe in experimenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a thing I can legally say.
Mm-hmm.
I am prone to experimenting, but while it's safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, let's say, for example, kids, teens, they want to try out alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything against that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna pull that bottle away, but make sure that you don't get alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
Don't make sure that you don't do anything stupid that you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna regret for the rest of your life.
Mm.
I don't know. Someone gets pregnant. Maybe they drove a car, don't even have a license, killed someone, killed
Mm.
themselves, maimed themselves,
Mm.
something like that. Then we have a whole other category, which is drugs, right?
Yeah.
And of course, yeah, you do. There's a no list, not an old, but there's a stereotype. You do drugs once and your whole life is ruined and you'll never get a job. No, that
Mm.
is wrong.
Mm.
And if we keep forcing that onto youth, then what's going to end up happening is that they have this mindset and then they see someone try something once and it doesn't happen. Their life
Mm.
isn't ruined.
Mm.
So what does it say? It says that absolutely everything I've been told about this so far has been a lie,
Yeah.
right? And now they're gonna go down that path, try absolutely everything they can get their hands on,
Mm.
and then they're gonna end up the same way that we were talking about.
Mm.
I think some countries in, like I think Norway did it really well. They talk about it realistically, right? You do this, the effects are this,
Mm.
also the consequences can be
Yeah.
this, and you need to be sure that this, and this doesn't happen.
Mm.
Um, test your things and all of that, right? If we're talking about, I don't know, let's say ecstasy.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, absolutely. I can 100% see if the effects are euphoria, then a person who is feeling down all the time and then all of a sudden they feel a sense of euphoria, they would feel glued to it. They want it back,
Mm.
so they start like abusing it more and more and more. And by its essence, it can mess up your brain chemistry,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely, not the safe thing.
Yeah. Mm.
But at the same time, if you're gonna try it, you're gonna try it anyway.
Yeah.
And I am not gonna be holding anyone's hand while they make that decision
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many people, there are so little amount of youth workers. The best I can do is literally give advice on how to make sure that whatever you
Mm.
do your research and
Yeah.
you're as safe as possible and you don't go off into the woods in the middle of, I don't know, January to test something.
Yeah.
You do it in a place where, if need be, you get help.
Yeah. 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 So do it. Like I think
Think it through.
think it through exactly. I think a lot of like people or young people have this idea of like we're thrill seekers at that age, right? We want to break rules, and the reason we want to break rules is that the rules are there in the first place. It's
Yeah.
it's, it's sort of like a competition thing that we have that we want to do that, and it might quite happen that you do it once and you try it and you feel that it's not for me
Hmm.
as well. I think it can happen easily in that way as well, or it
Absolutely.
or yeah, but so what you were so family system, that's a big challenge for the young people overall as well. Social, this idea of comparison or feeling social media effects of on their life. um, Anything else that you feel is a big challenge for the young people of Estonia at this stage?
Okay. A thing that I think is very, very big right now, now, now that it popped into my head. Um, so a little bit ago, Estonia was so conservative
Mm.
about the topic of mental health,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I'm not saying it's for the fault of social media. I'm not saying it's the fault of anything else, but like a combination of a lot of things. For example, asbestos, right?
Hmm.
We have now found out that ADHD develops can develop, has a higher chance of developing if a person comes into contact with asbestos and then has offspring.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
If a mother is pregnant or and smokes
Yeah.
or drinks alcohol, a higher chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying like it's definitely this or this cause, but we have a lot of different things that we found out contribute to these things. And it is a very recent thing that we've started to talk about, actually talk about mental health. It's been like it's been a red herring so far in a sense. We've always said, oh no, we need to talk about mental health. Are you depressed? Are you not depressed? But no one was actually looking into it. And now lately we have started to look into it, and we found that there are so many youth who would by now qualify for a diagnosis, but some of our parents, I'm honestly, I need to bow down to my parents for this, because as soon as I came out with ADHD, they were nothing but supportive. And half a year later, and one of my younger brother got diagnosis as well, and you could see his life improve drastically because of it. But a lot of parents are still conservative on that topic because no, there's no mental illness in our family. You're not depressed. You have to get over it. Just don't be sad. There's no ADHD. You just need to get your shit together, which is a thing that I thought to myself all the time. Even though I didn't know I have ADHD, I just thought I'm lacking because I'm not trying hard enough. But it's still a thing. And mental health problems have been, I don't think they've multiplied like that. Like that's the only reason why we have more of them. I don't think it's only because they've multiplied. I think a part of it is also now we know more, right? When my parents were my age, a kid with ADHD wasn't a kid with ADHD. It was a kid who just had a thick head, like literally what the rough translation from Estonian. They just had trouble learning. They had trouble sitting still. They had trouble focusing. And now we realize, okay, but with certain types of therapy or in some cases medication, it's not like that. And like we are opening the door, but we are still halfway there. And I think at one point we are going to get to the point where mental health is going to be talked enough about that we actually get help for a lot of people who need it. And this is a massive problem right now.
Yeah, I've heard so much about that. I mean, from what little I know about reading Estonian newspapers, is that there's a severe lack of professionals who are capable of dealing with these issues, and the problem is so big of this mental health that it's a huge problem. From what I know, that many are young people are suffering with right now. One other thing that I have recently seen popping up in Estonian Young is there was this recent incident. I'm not sure if you know that there was this Finnish basketball team, and there was this Estonian basketball team, and there was some racist, abuse between Estonian and this Finnish team. The Finnish team actually they got out of the tournament. So because they said that there was some Estonian players who like racially said curse words at them. I had previously also heard that there were some cases of teachers who were African, and they had to quit their job because they got so much of this from their students. I have seen this thing popping up here and there, not so frequently, but do you think that it's a problem in the young people that you have experienced or you're seeing that foreigners or people who look different are somehow that it's not as respectful to them as it is
Okay.
could be.
I think this is a very multi-layered topic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that youth in their essence believe that. Some of them believe it because of the way that they have been brought up.
Yeah.
If your family has always been like that, then you are more likely to be like that, right? Some of them are like that because it's just funny.
Yeah.
Some of them are like that because they don't actually understand.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's the families like that because they don't understand that what it is. Like, let's say, being racist, they don't think it's racist because back when I was young, it wasn't meant
Yeah.
as a racist thing.
Yeah.
And I do get that where that's coming from, but that's also why sometimes we just need to go with the flow. So now I'm not saying that go with the flow if someone is being racist towards you. What I mean is the parents who, okay, we grow up with this mindset, but that doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
I grew up with a certain mindset as well. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I grew up with a mindset that depression doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But at one point, that belief is gonna be questioned, and
Yeah.
then the problem isn't that like you have a belief. The problem is if you have a belief that you are not willing to change or look into. So a thing that I really like and admire about even uni is, yeah, I think I know these certain things. And when someone says, no, you're wrong, instead of just saying, no, I'm right, or flipping my opinion, I'm like, okay, let's debate it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it. If you convince me, then yeah, this is my new opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If we're still both questioning by the end of it, let's look into it some more. And if I convince you, then you learn something new.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, so finally, let's about to
Sorry.
wrap it up as well. What are the things that make you very hopeful about the future of Estonia when you look at the current young people? What is it about the young people today that is very like different from their previous generation? Like that makes you hopeful that Estonia has is really something to look forward to.
Um, well, that depends. There are many things. There are, for example, I think they are more brave
Mm-hmm.
about speaking up.
Mm-hmm.
There are both negatives and positives, and I think every generation had that.
Yeah.
But they are more brave about speaking up. They are more brave about saying, like, speaking up when things are unfair
Mm-hmm.
or when they want it some other way.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And a thing that I really, really wish I could say was true for a fact, but I don't know because I can only see that, like, I talk about it with the youth who come here.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them are starting to grasp the idea of what youth work is and
Mm-hmm.
how important it is. And since it's a relatively new thing in Estonia, then some of them do say it's a very important topic, right? And it should be valued more. It should be brought up more. It should
Mm-hmm.
be, more widely known. And this is a thing that I wish all of Estonian kids understood as of right now. But the truth is that looking around, I think a lot of people still don't know that youth work even exists.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them think it's just opening up a youth center and playing card games
Mm-hmm.
with kids and getting paid for it, if getting paid at all, because this youth workers' pay isn't regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very like questionable topic, but I do think we're moving in the right direction with that too, and I think that is a thing that would very much help youth in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are definitely some radicals in whatever field we're talking about who I really don't know how we can put in the leading positions of any country. Not talking about Estonia in general, but in general. But there are also some who are very bright, very accepting, very understanding. There are some youth who are so inspired about whatever they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
be it music, be it art, be it making tattoos, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is a thing that is it is awesome to see. So a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old who can code so well that you go to a game jam and then the tutors there are amazed that they give him a few pointers, they go away for a while and they come back and he's literally wrote lines and lines of functioning code while in the beginning he didn't even know how to use that program.
Mm-hmm.
So then things like that, they really they seem awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have youth who are that much into, let's say, programming, then we definitely have youth who are that much into, I don't know, financial analyst analytics. We
Mm-hmm.
have youth who are that much into politics,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not talking about just trying to weed everything out of other people under the name of politics. I mean, like, literally trying to better a country.
Understand politics and use it as a way to progress the nation. Because
Yeah.
I like, especially in Pakistan, we are very like disappointed, or we are very like separate from politics as well, because we see it as a older people's game. And I think that sort of plays in the role that if you keep not participating in it, then eventually the people that will be there are the people who like end up ruling you, because you don't put an effort into it. So okay, wrapping up, my final question, what I would like to usually ask Estonians is that, what does being an Estonian mean to you? um, who would you consider an Estonian? What does the person do? Because that is a question that I often ask, or like I get different answers to that. Some people say it's language, some people say that you have to be born in Estonia as an Estonian, some people say it's your ethnicity. But from your own personal level, it doesn't matter what it is, but who would you consider an Estonian?
So my viewership of what is an Estonian hasn't actually changed by my wife,
Mm-hmm.
which it matches up perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my understanding, ever since I was a kid, was that an Estonian, yeah, it isn't the person who was born here.
Mm-hmm.
An Estonian isn't the person who speaks the language fluently.
Mm-hmm.
Estonian is a person who wants to be here,
Mm-hmm.
wants to better the country,
Mm-hmm.
contribute to it,
Mm-hmm.
and gives it their best to
Mm-hmm.
help this country develop. And this is a very this actually, like, I just it clicked in my head when you just asked that, because I haven't even thought about it, to be fair. But yeah, this has been a thing ever since I was a teen. I don't think being born in a certain country makes you like uh, counts you into being this or that country.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a thing that I have argued with people close to me about as well. So, for example, this is a reason why I was so angry at the Minister of Foreign Affairs, because my wife, when she was deported, at the time, she had done more for Estonian
Yeah.
society and kids and youth than some people who have been living here for 50 plus
Mm-hmm.
years.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing they contribute is paying taxes, and that's only because it's mandatory,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that she was actively trying to better this
Mm-hmm.
country. And yeah, it's piece by piece. It's
Mm-hmm.
not massive change overnight, but the piece by piece adds up.
Yeah.
By the end of 10 years, these piece by piece, like little snippets of help, are the things that are going to shape the country in a massive way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's not just her, that's every like that there's a lot of foreigners who I think put in a lot more effort than locals do, and
Yep.
locals don't really see that,
Yep.
or they don't want to see it, because I don't know, is it like shameful for them or what, but it's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that it is important to notice that, and like to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah. 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 Uh I feel, because I see from the perspective of the foreigners as well, like especially foreigners who are trying to contribute in some way, or in the service sector, or volunteering, as in your wife's case as well. So it's these people are, I feel like, at the front line of these things. And those are the people who are actually moving out, because as a foreigner it's very easy to get yourself in a bubble.
Hmm.
It's very, very easy. You just meet with the people of your own language, these things. And honestly, I think majority of the foreigners are in this situation because they feel that going out to the front line is very hostile, so they try to keep their contact as minimum as possible. But I think, if we do that, if we encourage this, if we encourage people, like talking to each other in a way that we are able to understand each other's views, then I think that's a really good. But thank you so much. I had a really great time. Is there anything that you would like to give a shout out to? Maybe the Keila Youth Center, if you have a, I don't know, a LinkedIn profile, or would you want any message that you would like to go out? Because I think, I'm sure a lot of people will watch this.
Well, yeah, I do want to give a shout out to the youth center 100%.
Mm-hmm.
um Not just because of this room, because it has made a massive difference in
Mm-hmm.
my life, and a lot of people close to me when we were youth as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, a thing that I want to say to foreigners living in Estonia right now who kind of feel that maybe it's difficult to find Estonian friends.
Mm-hmm.
A thing that I have noticed is that in the beginning, it is difficult, because you don't know how to speak to Estonians. By the time that you've learned how to communicate with Estonians, then you've already found a group of other foreigners, and you tend to stick to them.
Yeah.
And this is natural. That's completely okay. But if you want to feel like you fit in after that time, put in some effort to trying to communicate with Estonians once you know how, like, that they're not cold, that they're not trying to push you away. They're just a bit different than the way that they present themselves, right? So once you are more comfortable with Estonians, try again. And if maybe someone is a jerk, then they're a jerk. But there are jerks in every country. There are jerks in the country where you're from. There are jerks from the country where absolutely every foreigner is from. Try another person.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? The
Yeah.
worst that can happen is that you meet a few people who you don't like all that much. But on the flip side, maybe you find someone who is absolutely amazing as a friend or a contact. A lot of people who I know who have met my wife, they're appalled that there's a person who is trying to learn the language, trying to learn the culture, and they don't have any problem with her being a foreigner. But in the beginning, it was very difficult for her to try and speak to Estonians. So once that shift happens, once you understand, give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? Maybe you'll find amazing friends.
Yeah, that's such a great thing. And I think you being here and you talking here is great as well, because of course you're an Estonian as well. And if anybody tries and finds, and I'm sure there are more people like you who are open and accommodating, and then I think you can have very deep and meaningful friendships here in Estonia. I mean, some of the people that I know, our closest friends are Estonian friends. Like I've known since I did my master's, like 8 years ago. So yeah, that's very true. I think the slowest relationships that build over time are the deepest. The person that you meet over a coffee and you become instant best friends, that doesn't tend to to last very long. Relationships have, like this depth that time is required. But thank you so much. I had a really great time. Thank you everybody for watching, and yeah, it was great. I'll see you in the next one.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
Take
me.
care, man. Okay.
Sorry, I cut you off in the end there.